Welcome back to In Ohio Country today, and joining me now is Jamie Brown, and Jamie is a 6th grade science and math teacher down at Miami East. We're here at the SECO Science Symposium for 2023 in beautiful Lewis Center. Jamie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, before we get started, let's talk a little bit about your background and what you guys do.
So my background is actually not ag-related at all. I went to a college that was primarily ag major, so I just kind of had a lot of conversation with them and a lot of questions about why do you do what you do, and thankfully friends and people around me that were willing to talk through that. My husband is also involved in ag, so he works for a seed and chemical retailer, so even kind of the background of warehousing and getting things where they need to be everywhere from northern Indiana to North Carolina, so just kind of being able to have some background there as well.
How do you use Grow Next Gen to bring it to the classroom or introduce it to your students? What's your relationship with Grow Next Gen and your 6th grade science kids?
Absolutely. So Grow Next Gen for me primarily gets pulled into soil. So students are kind of first introduced to soil in 4th grade, and then we kind of dive into a little bit more, okay, what is dirt versus soil? So them getting the understanding of that, things that are important to the soil. So Grow Next Gen has some great curriculum for nutrients in soil, what do plants need to be able to thrive in soil. One of the things that we're really focusing on here today is microbes in soil and how those are important. The soil is alive, and how those kind of add to soybeans and corn and things that we're producing throughout Ohio.
You know, we had the pleasure of interviewing Ray Archuleta, and Ray is one of those guys that's world-renowned for his passion about the soil, and that's exactly the way he puts it. He always says the soil is alive, it's a living organism, and how important it is for us to recognize that, and that's how we can better utilize it and save it for the next generation. And I'm sure that's the kind of passion that you bring to the classroom too, I bet.
Absolutely. So we have actually been doing a soil erosion challenge the past few weeks, and so students were just learning about why is soil so important. At first they're like, well, I wouldn't have food. And I'm like, well, what food? And sometimes I have to remember they think field corn is the corn that sits on their table. So we talk a little bit about that, and then getting into kind of like Jane talked about with soy products, like I wouldn't have my chapstick, or just different products that they don't realize are soy-based. And so they've been working on how do we keep soil in its place, because not only is it a problem for farmers that they aren't able to have a livelihood, but also that becomes a problem for them as consumers as well.
So let's talk about the symposium. I mean, you're obviously meeting a lot of science teachers that are here. This event is very important to kind of reaffirm or maybe give you a little bit more energy or some topics of diversity to bring to the classroom. So as a teacher, what do you get out of coming to a symposium like this?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is collaboration. So the ability to talk with other teachers, talk with teachers who are teaching the same content as me, but not necessarily teaching it in the same way. So not only being in sessions where I get to hear from speakers, everything from rocks to hydroponics to chickenology, and being able to then take that back and collaborate even in informal ways. So at dinner last night, being able to just kind of talk through the niches that we have and being able to connect that with one another as well.
Now, the theme for the symposium is not all heroes wear capes. So why don't you kind of explain that a little bit?
So with the pandemic shutdown, when students were sent home, people started to realize, like, man, this is a little bit harder than it looks. And I think out of that, kind of that saying came of, so teachers do a little bit more than we realize. We're literally preparing that next generation, the next generation to go into the workforce, whether they're heading to trades, whether they're heading to college, whether they're heading straight into the workforce, realizing that there's a lot of preparation and thought and time that goes into that as well.
So let's expand a little bit about that. You know, obviously with COVID, you didn't have the opportunity to get together, but coming to an event like this and the people who are here, it's more than just a networking opportunity, but you have booths here. It's also a trade show. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So throughout the symposium, there's everything from ODNR to H2O Ohio, aggregates, curriculum, people who are specialists in microscopes. So just being able to even see new technology, new things I can take back to my classroom. We were all amazed by a microscope camera where I can take things that I see and just flip them up on my screen. Just simple things that we can take back. And I think even just that energy, like you said, being able to be together and feed off of that and kind of a passion to be able to take back and, oh, I can try this, or I can use that, or I have connections here as well.
Well, I wish my sixth grade science and math teacher had the amount of energy that you have, because I'll tell you, that's the kind of enthusiasm we need in our classrooms today. And to get more people like through Grow Next Gen to get into this profession, because we know we have a need out there for science and math teachers. So if you want to make a plug to our students that are out there and some of our young people watching this, what would you tell them? How would you tell them? How would you say it's important for them to be a part of this industry?
I think just getting them to realize it's so much bigger than they think it is. So I have students sitting in my room who love to code video games, and they're like, we always talk about, I don't want to be a farmer, and it's so much bigger than being a farmer. Those farmers need autonomous equipment, drones, tractors. They need the ability to look, we talked about some farm servicing kind of things as well, mechanics. There's just so much there that I think they don't necessarily realize. And I'm not an ag teacher, but getting them to realize that and see, even in sixth grade, planting a seed of like looking at drones in the next couple weeks. We'll be looking at drones in my room. So kids are like, well, that's part of ag. Absolutely, that's part of ag. How do we get kids interested in that? So know that what you're interested in can probably be connected to ag in some way.
Jamie Brown, sixth grade science and math teacher from Miami East, has been our guest. Jamie, I can't tell you how much it was a thrill to have you on our television show today.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be back with more in Ohio Country today right after this.